Okie dokie. Okie dokie. What are we talking about today? I actually just filmed another video. We'll see if it ever sees the light of day. And yeah, I have a spare second. And so I will do my review of Lalami's Lalami. I think Lalami is good, so I'll stick with Lalami. The Other Americans. This was one of the reads for my Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion book club. And normally I actually kind of like to do my reviews after we meet because I think there's kind of like more ideas. I do a little more thinking about the book. This time I have a lot of thoughts and I have like very raw thoughts, like how I actually feel reading the book. And I feel like other people might convince me that I like it more than I did. But I did not like it. That's the spoiler. The spoiler is not good. Not good. Okay, why? Why do I have those opinions? I'm gonna try and keep this as like actually spoiler-free as possible. I will read the synopsis of a book while I'm reading it. And the same thing for movies. While I'm watching the movie, I'll be looking it up. So I sometimes have a trouble knowing, like, is this actually a spoiler? Because I don't think this is a spoiler, but I don't know what y'all think is a spoiler or not. So yeah, the book is about a patriarch, Driss, who is killed in a hit and run incident in a small town in the Mojave in California. Now, we witness how certain people in the town are affected by this. We get to see some conversations around like race and around ethnicity. Is that like Arab Americans in a post 9/11 space. We see conversations around mental health. Yeah. I think one of my big complaints about this book is going to be that it's sort of like they had all these characters written down and they start just kind of like chucking things at different people. Like, this is going to be this person's problem. This is going to be this person's problem. For example, the like main character ostensibly is Nora, the daughter, the youngest daughter. And she is a jazz composer, but she also has like synesthesia, which is like briefly mentioned twice. And I was like, why did you, like, this didn't need to be here. And I felt like there was a lot of stuff like, excuse me, that was like kind of throwaway like that it was like, here's a thing that this character can be, but it's not really adding much to the story. And Lalami's not speaking on it more. So it felt underdeveloped, underbaked. And in general, I think that's sort of one of my complaints of the book, is that it felt very surface level. And it's worsened by the fact that this is one of those books where like every chapter is a different perspective. And I'm gonna be honest, some of these perspectives I didn't really care about. I didn't think that was necessary to have in there. I'm on my knees, I'm gonna move. Yeah, so some of these characters are just like, I don't really care. For example, there's this guy, Jeremy. You learn from the back of the book, he's like an Iraq war veteran. Which is fine. And I think what bothered me about this character is how much time we spent talking about his friend. And I was like, listen, if you wanted the friend to be the main character, just make the chapter about the friend. Like, I don't know. I thought that was it just to me kind of felt like a waste, because I was like, you're bringing this guy in, we're supposed to learn about his perspective, and then there's this other, like, I don't know why really is he here other than to be. Is he supposed to be like the white guy to which we compare every other character to see the differences in his life? But also as like a veteran of a war, there's a different, he clearly does not have like a stereotypical, I don't know, that's weird. No, he does actually have a stereotypical American experience, but he doesn't have a common American experience, at least not in my circles. Like, I don't know that many like veterans who served in war. And so I think that there's that element of, yes, he is in some ways othered by his experiences, but in other ways, what I said earlier was right when I misspoke and said stereotypical, he's actually quite stereotypical. He is the sort of stereotype of this American. So in a book about other Americans, Is he really there? Now, I think that could have been bettered, it could have been improved if the idea was, let's talk about mental health in regards to this character. And if that's what was supposed to happen, why not just do that? Why bring in all these other people? Just talk about this guy and his mental health and talk about, like, that is a great, I think, would have been a much better use of that character and the space that he occupied. Because he occupied a lot of space and I did not care for it at all. Sorry. I think the more I think about it, the more I am angry at this fictional guy, Jeremy. Sorry, Jeremy. Sorry, Jerry Bear. So that was one of my complaints, right? Like, I think there was a lot of space dedicated to characters who were a little bit, like I said, half-baked, and then also to people where it's like, if you wanted to say this, say this. Don't bring in these other people. Don't get all this other stuff involved. Yeah, I didn't think it was a good use of that, like, good use of those chapters where Jeremy was there. It just, again, really bothered me. The other thing I did not like is, so there's this guy, Efren. He is the one who has witnessed Driss's killing, the hit and run, and he's in there for like a couple chapters, and I thought, this is gonna be interesting. This is gonna be an interesting character. The second he has served his purpose, he is removed from the story, and that pissed me off because I thought, like, something life-changing happens. We're kind of led to believe something very life-changing happens to this character, and then we just never see them again. It's like, okay, this person's entire life might have been changed. This would be a fabulous way of talking about what happens to them and American culture, especially American culture in relationship to undocumented Americans. Like, wow, that would have been so good to include. It just felt like such a missed opportunity. If you wanted to talk about that, if you wanted to have that conversation about other Americans, wouldn't that have been such a great place to include it? That kind of really upset me. I also feel the same way, like, with, I don't know, like with Detective Coleman, like her secret, her surprise, the mystery. I just thought it was like, this does not feel necessary, and it doesn't feel like it was dealt with the kind of importance and weight that maybe it should have been dealt with. And I feel like if you want to have that conversation, you cannot make it a throwaway line. You should not make it something that, like, someone can skim the book and, like, miss. And that's kind of how I felt about that. It didn't handle it with the grace and time and effort it felt like it deserved. Now, the last thing that I will say that's, like, kind of more generally content-based that I did not like about this book is I did not like Nora's relationship with her mother. First of all, I thought the mother could have been, like, way more interesting of a character. I just feel like she wasn't given maybe the grace and space she deserved. But also, I feel like the whole idea was, oh, Nora, she's this artistic person, and her mom, as opposed to her father, is very against that and just wants her to have, like, a really grounded life. There's this comment about Nora always having her head in the clouds, and why can't she be more like her sister, who is more kind of stereotypically conventional, that's what I'm looking for, conventionally successful. Why is that not, why does Nora have to be, Nora? While I understand the conversations that were being had there, to me, I found it a little weird how little almost grace the mother was given with that, because I feel like, based on people I know who, like, have actually had this experience within their lives, they tend to understand where their parents are coming from. Like, yeah, you struggled a lot to get any amount of success you had. It must feel really scary when I am doing something that you are not sure will give me success, a thing you've had to fight so hard for, right? Like, I think it was a TikTok that I saw, and it's this girl talking about how, like, her whole life her parents, like, pushed her into playing violin, and they, like, made her do it, and she had to play an instrument. And then when she's graduating high school, and they're like, well, so are you gonna go to, like, like law school, or you're gonna be a doctor? And she's like, no, I want to play the violin. They're really upset about that. She's like, you did this to me. You're the reason why I have this passion. But that's not necessarily the case for this character, but I think at the same time, right, there is that understanding of like, just that kind of like relationship of like, your parents sometimes want a future for you because they want success, they want you to have stability, and you might not want those things, but you understand why they want those things for you. And I don't know, I just thought that conversation never happened. It was always like, oh, again, my mom comparing me to my sister, which I also thought makes sense. Like, that's a very normal thing that happens, I think. But at the same time, it was like, I don't even know if the sister was relevant in here. Like, would the mom have had the same judgments about Nora had the sister not been a part of the book? I don't think so. I think she probably would have had the same complaints. You have your head in the clouds. You're not pursuing this conventionally successful career. You're unmarried. Like, all of those things would still be true and probably still be complaints from the mother to the daughter. Yeah. The last thing I will say, those were all the things that I would say really bothered me about the book. Like, those were the genuine big complaints. The last thing I will say, complaints-wise, is I did not like her writing style. I just didn't. I like flowery, kind of like flouncy, poetic, meaning of lifey type pretentious books, right? And I think this one was just a little too surface level, scratched it off, more about like pushing events forward than about digging into the mindset of these characters. And to me, books like that will kind of just never really be favorites. And with that, I think this would have been a great book to have all of those insights, to really engage with the conversation, really engage with what is the issue, what are the problems, what are the hopes and fears of these different people when living in a small town America, when surrounded by Americana. If you do not match that image, what is life like for you, right? And of course, part of this is that Lalami does not have the background of some of these characters. You know, she is not a Black detective in a small town. She is not a undocumented Mexican worker. So she cannot really necessarily bring that level of depth into those characters. But I think then maybe it would have actually been more valuable to stick to the family members and to see this happen through their eyes. We could have gotten a much deeper, much richer story, and we would have had more time with the characters who most of the stuff was happening to them. Like, most of the events that were occurring dealt with these people. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this guy. Not, like I said, not my favorite. I think I gave like a 2 stars on Goodreads or something. Currently reading. I have not done that in a while because honestly I've been really bad about like keeping my currently reading straight. Currently reading is Baba Yaga Laid an Egg, and I can't remember the name of the author. I'll include it here. And I hope to see you soon. Let me know if you have read anything by Lalami, if you liked it. And yeah, any books that maybe kind of follow a similar theme of looking at our other or marginalized Americans, but maybe you think I would like more than this one. All right, sounds like a deal. See you in my next video.